Let's go! Max Johnson enters the transfer portal. What is Brian Kelly going to do about this quarterback position? Because obviously now we only have one scholarship quarterback left on the roster, and he is redshirting. What are we going to do about the bowl game? And as you guys have heard on live streams, obviously this is just infuriating to me that we even did this GARRETT NUSSMEIER redshirt thing. But today, the video is going to mostly feature what the heck happened to Max Johnson. This was the guy who led us to a 2-0 ending last year, and all we've seen this year is flat out regression. So obviously, as many of you know, I am a big fan of Max Johnson and what he's done for this university, but stop it right here. This was the ominous sign. LSU football was not the same this year after this moment where, as you guys could see, there is a really bad coverage bust here, and all Max Johnson has to do is deliver this football to TREY Palmer. It doesn't even need to be in stride. And of course, as many of you know, this was a bad underthrow, and we miss a touchdown. And this was the drive after UCLA had their opening touchdown. So what we're going to do is, at the start of this video, we're going to talk about we're going to defend Max Johnson, but then at the end, we're going to talk about how things really began to fall apart. So obviously, the biggest benefit of Max Johnson is that he was reliable. He was available. You never had to worry about him suiting up. He was a very durable quarterback, and even to a point where he was playing through injury versus Ole Miss. So this was a guy who just flat out there gave it his all every single week for LSU, and that's basically all you can ask for. Quarterbacks going out there and giving their absolute best. And at the same time, this is going to be the biggest defense of Max Johnson, and I guarantee you, as I've been critical of Max Johnson this year, I've at the same time defended him, as have a lot of you, because look, Max Johnson this year didn't have the best supporting cast. Max Johnson had a heavy wide receiver rotation that sometimes didn't make sense. Max Johnson did have Liam Shanahan getting blown into his lap pretty much every other snap during some games this year. Also, the pass protection overall was very inconsistent for Max Johnson. We could never throw to the running backs. We could never block a screen correctly, which are easy throws for the quarterback to be able to complete, to be able to move the chains. So I defend Max Johnson for all of those things. And we can even add an extra layer of defense that Max Johnson should have never even played this year for LSU, as Myles Brennan could not stay healthy last year with an on-field injury and whatever inexplicably happened off-field. So Myles Brennan should have been the starter not only all of last year, but all of this year as well. And we've shared this stat plenty of times. There has never been, in the modern era, a successful starting quarterback at LSU that had to start year 2 or less in their development. Every quarterback that became the full-time starter in year 3 or beyond of their development did hit. It is a 100% correlation, which, once again, we'll get into in just a second, because right now, we're in a position where GARRETT NUSSMEIER or Walker Howard's going to be our full-time starter next year. Now, while all those things defend Max Johnson, and of course, you look at a basic stats, 27 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and all those things make Max Johnson look really good. But the truth about Max Johnson is the opposite. It comes down to him simply not being that great of a quarterback. So we get to this play, and what we're going to do for the rest of this video is we're going to show you a lot of missed throws by Max Johnson. Throws where you can't blame the wide receivers, you can't blame the pass protection, you can't blame the play call. It's all on Max Johnson, okay? And what we're going to do is we're actually going to break down the play right after the missed TREY Palmer throw, okay? So Max Johnson gets a very exotic look. This guy's backing out, this guy's backing out, and Max Johnson, of course, is going back into this pocket that, boom, protection's actually really good here on this 3rd and about 9. So Max Johnson's right here. Boom, he's looking to Trey Palmer. This isn't there on this corner going here. But notice, GARRETT Jenkins is right in his line of sight, and Max is looking right at him. Throw the football right here, okay? But he doesn't. He sits, once again, in absolute perfect pocket. But here's a good thing. They're playing man coverage here, okay? Or some variation of zone, whatever. This also opens up for Max Johnson, okay? This rushing lane for him to run through for a wide open first down, because this corner is running with this drag to Jack Besh, and Max Johnson is still holding this football out. Almost had a strip sack right here, and he tries to throw this to TDP, and it goes straight into the ground. Notice he could have run here. He could have slid here and allowed GARRETT to clear out over here. Whatever the coverage was, whatever was there or wasn't there, that was really bad quarterbacking right there by Max Johnson. So 2 plays in a row that were utter disasters, and this was just in the second quarter of this game. So let's go through the cons of Max Johnson. The first thing, obviously, is when you look at more advanced stats like QBR, Max Johnson's QBRs were never really that good. I believe he only registered a QBR of 70 or more 4 or 5 times in his career, and that's even dating back to his 2 great games last year versus Ole Miss and Florida. So advanced stats such as QBR shows Max Johnson to be a very replaceable quarterback, as this year he was 10th in QBR, last in the SEC West when it comes to total QBR, and just QBR on a game-by-game basis. On top of that, Max Johnson has missed a lot of throws, and your guys are looking at a bunch of the missed throws that Max Johnson made throughout his career, and the list goes on and on. Some of these throws were just during the course of the game, but a good majority of these throws were during crunch time. Who can forget the Mississippi State game where Max was pretty daggum good, one of his better games, but with the game on the line, he has a wide open Jack Besh, and he misses Jack Besh, which, once again, I thought Jack caught that pass, but it was still short of the sticks, and that throw probably ends the game right there. And as many of you know, Mississippi State ended up scoring on the next drive, and it ended up being a close game. But the missed throws don't just end there. The missed throws happen against Alabama. Most notably, his second half performance against Auburn was just downright abysmal when it comes to missed throws. And I'm not including in these slides a missed dig route to Trey Palmer that actually resulted in a fumble that was luckily picked up by Austin Deculus. But you can also see here on the final drive of the game, or before the final drive of the game, he missed Jack Besh. He could have thrown to TDP in the flat. And then on the actual final drive of the game, he had Kayshon Boutte on and out. And that's an issue with Max Johnson. His out-breaking route throws were just really, really bad. When you look at his throwing chart, like on SEC StatCat, you see that Max Johnson was far better throwing the football towards the middle of the field when you look at success rate or whatever you want to look at. And look, the bottom line is on out-breaking routes, Max Johnson was bad. That even dates back to last year versus Florida before the Cole Taylor shoot throw. He missed GARRETT, and that would have been an easy first down. Then versus Ole Miss, to go up by 4 possessions to start the third quarter, he missed Coy Moore on an outbreaking route in that game. The list goes on and on. The Alabama performance earlier this year, really bad performance where everyone on the team played exceptionally well except their quarterback. And that's just the honest truth. A lot of you watched that game, and that was the difference. They had Bryce Young, and we had Max Johnson. So the issues is that Max Johnson was decent at best, but in the modern college football era, you have to be exceptional at the quarterback position, which leads into more criticisms of Max Johnson, including his rushing stats. Last year as a full-time starter, Max Johnson was a really good rusher. In both of his games versus Ole Miss and Florida, he had over 40 yards rushing. This year, as you guys just saw with this UCLA clip, he had plenty of room to scramble for a first down there. There were a lot of times where he had room to scramble for a first down, and we didn't really see him scramble this year effectively until the final 2 games of the year. Your bad mechanics begin to show up. Max Johnson just did not have great pocket presence. Max Johnson didn't have the best footwork in the world. He would get gun shy at times. He would begin to start throwing off his back leg, and those issues began to just pile on top of each other. So on top of all of that, the lack of mobility and his mechanics were just all over the place this year. Boom, I'm looking at you right now. Okay, so comment down below, do you think Brian Kelly should try to get Max out of the portal? I do think it's a lost cause, simply because I do think Max Johnson and Jake Johnson want to go to the same school, and Jake Johnson has expressed his desire to enroll early. So if you want to enroll early, of course you got to sign during the early period, and well, that's basically it. So I think there's some of that at play here, but the bottom line is, if Brian Kelly was able to watch some film on Max Johnson, as you guys saw with the amount of missed throws, and I promise you I cut out quite a bit, as right now you're looking at one of Max's better throws to his guy Kayshon Boutte for a nice red zone touchdown. But I do think Brian Kelly sees Max Johnson as someone that he doesn't want to be his quarterback next season. Now, you are in this position, though, where you're going into next year with just GARRETT NUSSMEIER and Walker Howard as your starter. So, what does Brian Kelly have up his sleeve? Because I doubt that he wants to play a younger quarterback going into next season. So the first thing is, I do think there is some plan to bring in another quarterback, whether that be through the transfer portal, whether that be Spencer Rattler, Dillon Gabriel, whoever that may be. Maybe it's bringing Myles Brennan back. I know a lot of you have asked me about that. Maybe Myles Brennan does say, look, if he guarantees me the starter's job next year, maybe I do come back and throw to one of the best sets of wide receivers going into next season, which is Jack Bech, BTJ Malik, and our guy Kayshon, if he's fully healthy and ready to go next season. So maybe that is an option for LSU to look into. I do want to share this one thing about GARRETT NUSSMEIER. I know I teased this at the beginning of the video. I do feel Nuss should burn the red shirt and try and win this starter's job now. It would go a long way in him potentially winning this starter's job next season. And you guys know how I have felt about the red shirt situation. I think you should preserve red shirts as much as you possibly can, such as, you know, a little side note here, Chris Hilton, for instance. I think he's at 4-ish games right here. I would make sure he wouldn't burn it because it's unnecessary. And just keeping all of that in mind, obviously if Max was still here, you would at this point want to preserve GARRETT NUSSMEIER's red shirt, but here you kind of have no choice unless you want to, of course, play a walk-on in the bowl game. Was there something said from Brian Kelly to Max Johnson? Hey, you're not the guy, you need to look for something else? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I would have liked Max Johnson to stay on this roster, because while you guys did see a bunch of missed throws, I go back to this. There were a lot of drops from receivers this year. And maybe with better coaching, he takes another leap forward in year 3. But here's the thing. Yes, he is young. Yes, this was a guy who was playing way ahead of schedule. So I wish Max, Big Bad Brad, back by popular demand on TikTok, and I wish Max, Brad Johnson, and Jake Johnson the best in their futures. Now, obviously, to end this video, some breaking news that Brad Davis will be retained as the offensive line coach. I don't think that's too much of a shock, but the bigger shock here is Kerry Cooks will be coming to LSU. So he was the co-defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and he was also the defensive backs coach at Notre Dame. Now, what does that mean for Durante Jones? What does that mean for Corey Raymond? I don't know. I honestly don't know at all. Once again, this is just from Brody Miller at The Athletic. This has not been confirmed by LSU just yet, and I still think they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with this staff. So this is why you got to subscribe and like the channel. Once again, maybe something breaks by the time this actually airs, so we'll see what happens. That's the fun thing about it. Hope you enjoyed this video today, and comment down below your thoughts on Max Johnson and just basically anything LSU. Let's go. It is Power Hour LSU bomb. Carne asada tonight. Let's go. That wasn't smooth.